July 10th, 2023 school board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Board Clerk Maggie Smith, would you please call the roll?
Bridget Todd Robbins.
Here.
Barb Wunsch.
Here.
Crystal Lee.
Here.
Jennifer Deek.
She is excused.
Khadijah Islam.
Here.
Chris Lau.
Here.
Lindsay Need.
Here.
Maggie Smith here.
With 6 of the 7 board members present, I declare a quorum. Approval of the agenda. I note that the agenda has been posted, distributed, and sent to the local media. With this in mind, are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Keisha? Keisha has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Barb? Barb is seconded to approve the agenda as published. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion to approve the published agenda has passed. I'm assuming we don't have any public participation. Reports and discussion. I will welcome Executive Director of Finance and Operations Julie Holmen to present the Q4 revisions for the 22-23 budget. This item will appear on tonight's consent agenda.
So fast.
Yeah, please. Coming on. No, not tonight. Yeah, that's fine.
Good evening. So tonight I'm here to present the fourth quarter budget adjustments. So this is through June 30th for the 22-23 budget cycle. We just last week started our 23-24 budget cycle on July 1. So it's required that all revisions are approved by the board for the end of the fiscal year and for our audit purposes. So this is on both report and consent this evening. In the board document folder, there are 3 items. The issue paper has been revised due to a clerical error or 2 on my part. Apologize for that. And then the revised budget in DPI summary format, which is on the screen that you're familiar with. And there's also a form in there called Notice of Change. That one can be a little bit confusing because it's since the last revision, which was quarter 3, March 31st. And so I'm going to use this document so that you can see the 2 prior fiscal years audited, the original budget that was adopted last October, and the revised fourth quarter budget through June 30, and talk about each of the areas, starting with the general fund. So the planned general fund at the top of the screen on this DPI summary format is always fund balance for the general fund, primarily line 8 across the screen. And so speaking to that a little bit, the planned fund balance is just under 17.5 million for June 30. This is a increase from the original. And it does still have a budget deficit of 1.7 million, which means expenditures exceed revenue, but it is more favorable than what was approved last fall. The primary reason for that is an increase in revenue. I'm going to scroll down to the revenue summary, which is on line 58 of the summary, and there's an increase of $875,000. This increase from the original budget is primarily due to a couple things: interest earnings based on the many federal interest rate hikes that we've had this year. So our favorable fund balance and cash reserves have allowed us to earn interest in excess of $600,000 this year. And also we sold Oak Grove this year, and so that was $151,000 that was unanticipated last October before we sold that school. So an increase in revenue is supporting that fund balance change, and some decreases in revenue over the course of the year So going down to line 82 of the summary, estimated expenditures under the general fund are $55,611,000, slight decrease. That's due to a number of things, including wage and benefit savings this year. We had a few resignations prior to year end that saved on salary and benefits through the fiscal year, and then also a small decrease in the interfund transfer to Fund 27. That being said, we still may be anticipating some tuition billing for students that are placed for services in other locations for June. And so those services, if invoiced efficiently, services provided in June have to be paid as of June 30th. And so we do have payroll payables and accounts payables that still get booked back to June 30. That could change the expenditures to Fund 27, which impacts the Fund 10 interfund transfer. So I'm going to go back up to fund balance. Last meeting, you approved fund balance designation for non-spendable, restricted, committed, and assigned fund balances. The unassigned is the one that is kind of the variable as we work through our financial audit. That's kind of where the change would be based in comparison to what was approved under fund balance designation. So the restricted, committed, and assigned remain the same as were presented for fund balance designation by the board. And the unassigned on line 7 is a little higher at $7,766,000 estimated at this time. So you're looking at line 7 all the way to the far right. So overall improvement from October for general fund revenue and expense, with revenue exceeding expectations primarily due to interest earnings. You can shut your eyes till I get to the next one if you want. I know somebody else scrolling is kind of tricky. The Special Projects Fund is Fund 21. This is gift, grants, donations, and scholarships. Again, same as I've shared before. These are balances that can carry over from year to year, so they get reconciled after June 30th. There has not been a change since the third quarter adjustment, so the revised budget is the same as what was approved for third quarter. We do have around $200,000 in scholarship reserves. The balance is spread over 150 plus Fund 21 gift accounts across 6 buildings, most of them at the high school and the middle school. So because they can carry over their balances and that becomes their new starting balance until they earn any more donations or fundraised dollars, this gets reconciled after June 30th and comes to you in a proposed budget for the next year. As I mentioned earlier, there's a slight decrease in the special education fund over the original. We did have an increase in the number of students placed outside the district through tuition services. And so this is still an estimate and a challenge. And so, and as you know, they cannot go into a deficit position, which is why you see 0 as an ending fund balance. Line 95 is the interfund transfer from the general fund. That could still change, but currently estimated at just under $6.5 million to help support special education programming in our district and placement outside. So revenue and expense matches for Fund 27 at a total of $10,080,000 on line 162. The increase over the original is primarily the increase of the federal IDEA Special Education Award and the carryover amount that was received was not included originally in the budget in October. Carryover from prior years was added, bringing that grant alone from around $600,000 to over $800,000. So that made up the difference in original to revised for the IDEA grant under special education.
Do you know how many kids are going to other districts?
It's not other district. This is special education tuition placement for places like Cholita, Catholic Charities,
Oh,
Connections. Did I miss one? Driftless, just Driftless Paths. So for services that we do not have in-house sometimes, and high need, we need to place them in other facilities for those services, and then we pay a tuition cost.
'Cause some kids come to from
Right.
other districts,
Yep.
as being like one from this one from that one.
So that's public school open enrollment, and that's different than what I'm talking about here. I can tell you that the net loss is around 220 students. So we have over 400 resident students in the School District of Holmen that enroll in other public schools in the state of Wisconsin. And we receive in just over 200. We do have a net loss, and that is a historical trend for the school district. So the next change is in the debt service fund. This is Fund 39. This is voter-approved debt service for capital projects under referendum. And this is where we account for all the principal and interest payments due on the bonds. So when we have you levy in the fall, that levy includes a portion for debt service payments for the year. And then we make those payments through Debt Service Fund 39. The third quarter revision included a bid premium from the sale of the notes and bonds in February. This has come back out. We're going to recognize that as revenue in the next fiscal year, which has been allowable through the Department of Public Instruction since 2018. And we will be aligning that bid premium revenue recognition with the actual principal and interest associated with the bonds and notes that start that year. It's allowable by DPI, and it's a way to help level the shared cost, which we haven't talked about very much here, but it has a positive impact by aligning the revenue and the expense in the same fiscal year. And so I took it out and I'll put it in for the 23-24 budget. So it's received, but it's called deferred revenue on the books as opposed to recognized in the 22-23 fiscal year. So that's the major change on from the quarter 3 to quarter 4. And you will also notice, and this was also in the quarter 3 revision, but to bring it to your attention, on line 174 is the indebtedness. And so the original budget only had 17.7 in indebtedness because we hadn't yet passed the referendum in November. And so when we bonded for the 50 million combination of bonds and notes in February, that debt indebtedness went up by 50 million. Okay. Next is the capital projects funds. The adjustments here are for the actual Fund 42 capital work that is going on under that referendum. We originally thought we would have a much greater cost expended by June 30th, and that hasn't been as accelerated as the initial draw schedule predicted. And so the 1.9 million total expenditures might come in just under 2 somewhere. If there's anything outstanding for services through June 30 is the better estimate for what will actually happen in 22-23 as far as expenses. The rest then remains in fund balance for the future invoices right around the corner. The food service fund, all school nutrition is accounted for in Fund 50. Many times we don't have a revision on this fund. You'll notice in the audited 21-22, the revenue of 4.2 million. You may recall that meals were free by the federal government. So we had a huge participation in breakfast and lunch and exceeded any revenue historically, probably in the district. So then projecting what that might be in the fall was very difficult because the meals were no longer free for all. We went back to paid, reduced, and free for eligible students. And so the initial revenue estimate was 3.28 million. Participation has continued at a high level, which is a testament to the program here in Holmen that's been established. And so the revised estimate for revenue is just under $3.7 million for the 22-23 year. So they've done very well. If you look back a couple of years, of course, we had pandemic and we were closed, and But 3.66 is very good. In addition, line 190 shows a slight decrease in estimated expenditures. Also very difficult to predict our expenditures in this inflationary environment that we're in. So Mike Gasper, who is the Director for School Nutrition, has decreased the expenditure estimate for the year as well. And then there has not been any changes in Community Service Fund 80 for the year. Any questions? As a reminder, end of August, I'll bring a proposed, you saw a preliminary for 23-24, we'll bring a proposed forward, and then the original budget for 23-24 actually comes at the annual meeting time at the end of October for adoption. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Mueller will now present on the 23-24 police liaison contract for approval at the July 24th meeting.
Yeah, so each year we engage in a partnership with the Village of Holmen and the Holmen Police Department. And we've been very fortunate to have a police liaison in our district. And you see contained in your packet was the actual job description. So you can see a lot of it's based on building relationships and being proactive instead of reactive and so on. Our police liaison in the district serves actually all of our buildings because we have one, but they also have a very close relationship with many of our folks within our district and within the village in surrounding communities. So it works very well for us in the school district. So this is just to continue that partnership where we, as a school district, pay 50% of the salary and benefits, and the village actually pays the other 50%. And the contract is for 178 days, which is the number of days that kids are in school, along with 5 days before and 5 days after, towards the end of the school year. So just bringing this forward for approval at our next board meeting. So I don't know if there's any questions.
Were there any changes to the contract or job description since
No,
last year?
no.
Okay.
I took a look and reviewed it in that, and we've been as we engage in more work in that around discipline and so on. I know in some of our buildings we are watching closely when we do have discipline amongst students, like really looking at what types of students and what are the ratios of the discipline and so on, and kind of keeping an eye on that. And if we are, our ratios aren't looking proportional to our demographics, like really working with that. But that comes amongst us as a district and our employees, not just our police liaison. So, and that, so. All right, thank you.
All right, next up, Jill Mason will be presenting the clinical affiliation agreement with the University of Minnesota this item, if approved, will appear on the July 24th consent agenda.
I have the next three, so
Yeah,
Yeah, Jill will be up there for a little bit.
I'll be
now.
here for a little bit.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of work with our universities to provide opportunities for student teachers, for clinical affiliations, for occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, physical therapy, a variety of other different opportunities. And so we've partnered with the University of Minnesota in the past, and we will continue that partnership. I believe we've only had one clinical student for occupational therapy, but we keep that open in the event the university wants to connect with us, and we have OTs in the district who offer that opportunity. So usually these span for a couple of years. You'll see this one spans until 2028. It's because most times it doesn't change, the contract doesn't change. And so again, we just usually partner with them to offer that, this school district being a site for them to come and do their work. So we have to bring that to the board when it happens. So we're hoping that you agree with us. So that's what this one is. Any questions on our MOU with the university? Okay. And then the next one, which one? Oh, early childhood special education teacher. So many of you have heard me talk before about the numbers of students that are being referred at our early childhood early childhood level. I just wanted to give you a couple of stats from last spring or from last year. So from July 1st of 2022 through June 30th of 2023, we had 59 referrals at the early childhood level. At the end of the year, our staff were case managing 25 students who we did not expect. And so what that means is oftentimes Birth to Three, which is a county agency, when children turn like around the age of 2, a little over, they'll oftentimes have transfer meetings to the school district because we can start serving kids at age 3. And so we usually know about them. So usually Birth to Three will give us like a 90-day report that says, hey, student X is going to be being referred to your school district. So usually we know in advance of those. So we had at least 25 students at the end of the year that we were not, that weren't part of Birth to Three, that just came as referrals to us. Which we're glad about. That means we're finding students and we're able to serve them early and have early intervention. So we're really excited. The challenge for us is that we need to make sure we have staff to serve them. So part of this description in here talks a little bit about indicator 6, which means we have to be very purposeful about our preschool educational outcomes and where we are placing students. So at the ages of 3 to 5, we really have to be placing students in their natural settings. So most often that's in the home or in their childcare setting, in a preschool setting. Sometimes we bring our students here into the school district, into our early childhood setting. Or in their 4K classrooms. At the 3-year-old level, if they have some significant needs, sometimes we will bring them in so they can receive their therapies where we have all of the equipment at school. But we really do our best to try to serve the students where they are, which means we have to have staff go to the childcare, go to the homes, which creates blocks of time where they can't be seeing students because they have to travel. So in turn, that requires us to have enough staff to be able to go out and do that. And so currently, as of today, we already have 30 students in our 3 to 4, so our early childhood, our 3-year-olds, and then our 4K classroom. And then we currently have 14 referrals, and that was as of looking at the schedule, but I just received an email from the early childhood teacher today that we have 2 more referrals that just came through. So I just really feel strongly that we need to look at adding another teacher at this level so that we're able to serve our students. Right now, sometimes we kind of have a little roller coaster and we seem to be on the upswing of our referrals in this school districts. We are seeing a lot around the nation, more students with autism being referred and eligible, and we are definitely seeing that in our school district. So just wanted to bring that to your attention and then offer if anyone has questions. All right. Then the next one is our 660301 agreements. So for those of you that are new to the board, we have 3 transition programs. We have Project Search, which is affiliated with Gunderson in La Crosse. And so we have students from Holmen and students from other school districts accessing that 18 to 21-year-old program for students with disabilities. They go to Gunderson and they do different rotations. They do an internship there, and that's a year-long program. Project Bridge is over at ACE Academy at the BGC. That's for students who need a little bit more assistance. Some of them do have jobs. We try to get them out in the community as much as possible. We serve them until they're 21. And then Project Live is at our YMCA location. They are, for the most part, in the community. They have jobs. They're semi-independent or independent, living in group homes, or learning a lot about how to be out in the community and do their jobs and live a productive life. So in order to attend these 3 transition programs in our school district, if you're from out of the district, we do what's called a 660301 agreement, which means we are the service provider, the school district of GET, La Crosse, Independence, Westby. They all hold the student's IEP. We provide the service. And so in order to do that, we have to come to the board and have you agree that that's what we're going to do. When we do those, we use the open enrollment cost to predict what that will be for them to attend our programs. Any questions on that one? All right. That's all I have.
So just so we know, the University of Minnesota contract will be on the July 24th consent agenda. The early childhood education position will be on tonight's agenda, and then the project Search to Live and Bridge will be on the 24th consent agenda items. So.
Absolutely.
Speaking of consent agenda, for the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or has discussed it in a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. Would any board member like to pull any item from the consent agenda to be discussed and or voted on separately? All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided.
So moved.
Maggie,
Second.
is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion has passed.
I have one retirement I wanted to just
Okay.
congratulate this evening. Dave Trucan, he's a software specialist with us, or has been with us for 15 years in the district, and he is going to be retiring here in August. So we wish him well in his retirement and his, in whatever he plans to do here after this. So thank you to Dave for all of his service. All right, thank you.
That's all right. Excellent. Thank you. So the board debriefs. I will call on the board members to ask them to present any comments or committee reports that they may have. We will start with Bridget.
I don't have anything tonight, thanks.
All right. Barb?
I do not have anything tonight.
All right. Any student updates?
Nope.
No? All right. Summer's going good?
Actually.
Jennifer is gone. Kadisha?
I also have no updates.
All right. I am also in that group of not of too many updates. Lindsay?
I have nothing.
Awesome. And then Maggie.
Pressure's on, I have
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So district administration has advanced 42 policies to the board for first reading. There's a whole list of them there on the agenda.
Till next year.
Pretty extensive list. So if there's no other business that needs to come before the board at this time, I'm assuming not. If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved?
All right, Bridget.
Second.
Maggie has seconded the adjournment of the meeting at 7:28 p.m. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Good evening.
Oh, my goodness.
I said nay to not ending the meeting.